Hi everyone, my name is Evelyn Pravina James, and I'm here to give you my testimony today, my life story of the past over 20 years, I guess. My testimony is titled Perfectly Imperfect, and I chose the key verse The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. This is from Job chapter 1, verse 21b. I was born and raised in Chennai in a good Christian home. My dad's a doctor who came up the hard way, being the last of eight siblings, and my mom, an efficient lecturer, then who became a homemaker to raise us. And now she runs her own business, even at the age of over 70. I have two sisters, both married and settled in Chennai. One married a non believer, and one married a Christian minister. So I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Both sides of our families have people in full time ministry as well as non believers. We spent part of our childhood in Iran, where my dad worked and my younger sister was born. Then we returned to India in 1981 during the Iran Iraq War in God's perfect timing. I studied in a good Christian girls' school in Chennai, started topping the class, and I was a class leader for most of my school life, winning awards every year. I was also actively involved in church life as a Sunday school student, then a teacher, a youth leader, choir singer, and other activities. I gave my life to Christ at the age of 13 years and cruised along life till I got into the top engineering college in the state after my 12th grade. I got to interface with some brilliant minds in college and for the first time was exposed to the harsh realities of a secular world: smoking, alcoholism, immorality, politics, etc. But God kept me safe as my close friend and I always took a stand against copying in exams, affairs, and other stuff. While most of my close friends went abroad for higher studies, I didn't want to leave my parents, so settled down to work for the first company I got selected in for a job via campus interview. By then, also, I knew whom I was going to get married to, a close friend and family friend. So our dads kind of fixed up everything before Uncle, my father in law to be, a wonderful man of God, was diagnosed and quickly passed away with stomach cancer, much against everyone's prayers and wishes. I was traveling on work quite early in my career, even made a couple of foreign trips, defying God, which turned out to be disasters. I was so ambitious to climb the corporate ladder that I had little time for God or my husband after our wedding. We both traveled on and off, based in Chennai, with hardly any family time for each other. When my son was almost 2 years old, God opened up an opportunity for Dinu, that's my husband, to work in a family member and a friend's company in Pennsylvania, USA. The medical device company had just started, and building the entire computer architecture from scratch was a huge challenge. After weighing several options, Dinu resigned from our Chennai office. He studied at home to develop the system for the new company and left for Pennsylvania. I stayed on to finish a project in Chennai, then left to join him with our little son after a few months on a dependent visa. This was in 2004, a year that kind of ended my much loved corporate job and started my new adventure. I had no idea what God had in store for me. Though most Indians are happy to go to the US on a dependent visa, I was very bitter with God after getting there and being shut indoors for most of the snowy winter, despite having family and many of our old church friends from India there. It took me over 3 years to settle down with a good American church, where I made some of my best friends for life in the women's Bible study and prayer group. I started leading prayer, singing, and even spoke at meetings and retreats. But I must admit that I wasn't spending enough time with God, with my hectic life, and complained when the slightest thing went wrong. However, with some great friends and mentors in our women's group, I grew spiritually. And we started hosting church groups in our house, which soon became the center of get togethers, even for our American neighborhood. We seemed like a perfect family of four, traveling to several places and enjoying life in the US. My husband worked long hours most of the time, and I missed my career and huge family in India. Kept praying for many years to return home, which was discouraged by most of the Indian diaspora there. By then, we had our kids in a private Christian school and a huge house to pray for, making things financially almost impossible to get back. I tried to calm myself and settle into our life there when one night I was woken up very disturbed. I used to get visions and sometimes even woken up praying for people. I knew then that my urge to get back to India was rekindled, and with problems back home in the family, I had to be there for my parents. I cried a lot to God again. Through all our uncertainties at that time, we were promised another kid. And those who know me as a planner and how I had planned my previous two kids, I tried planning this one too. But no, God made us wait for quite a while before giving us little Anina in his perfect time. A complete package of mischief and joy. That year, 2014, was a landmark year for us. Probably a year that I surrendered everything to God and asked Him to take over complete control of my life. As God heard my heart's cry of many years, He worked out things for us to return to India. At recession time, God even helped us to sell our beautiful home within 2 weeks. Dinu spent months packing most of our furniture and belongings to be shipped via a whole 40-foot container to India, while my pastor brother in law managed a house construction in Chennai. I left Pennsylvania with our three kids on March 30th, 2015, crying with friends, but also grateful to our sovereign God for making the impossible possible after so many years, again in His perfect time. Dinu continued working in the Chennai branch office, traveling to Pennsylvania and other places while God helped our kids transition smoothly into an international school in Chennai and spending much time with their grandparents and huge extended families on both sides. It's been over 5 years since we got back from the US, and I often marvel with tears in my eyes at how much such a great God had come down to my level and valued every teardrop I cried through many lonely days. I had tried part time jobs in the US too, and even when I thought of getting back to a career in India, I just didn't feel led. For about 3 years, I helped lead the children's and junior youth ministry in a church in Chennai till dissatisfaction crept in. And I knew God was calling me to step out and step up my calling. I again cried out to God from December 2019. And during this time, I was able to pray and boldly proclaim Jesus to many of my old school friends and non believing family members. Then, through an actor, I felt led to minister and connected with celebrities in Mumbai, where God is working mightily, a field much neglected by our Christian diaspora, but which matters to God as well. I was really drawn to Christian apologetics and connected to apologists in India, where I found that there are hardly any women. Through some leads, I connected with Lataka, and here I am. I've made many friends here thanks to you all, and I'm glad God is using my gifts. Through my life story, here are a few lessons I'd like to share with you all. There was no bragging involved in any of this life story, but a lot of valuable lessons learned from a seemingly perfect and secure life. I had a secure, loving family, yet I got to see abuse, childhood abuse. I was very proud of my intellect and talents, and those became useless in a jiffy. I loved my career. That too was gone on the verge of my promotion. I wanted to get back to a career, but nothing satisfied me. I lost some of my best friends, and grieving about it for years, God showed me in a vision how He had intentionally removed them from my life. I was also a health and fitness freak, ended up having a back problem, hernia surgery, and more recently was put on anti seizure medication, a diagnosis which was made just in time. I grew up in a sheltered home, especially loving my dad so much that when I heard a sermon in Pennsylvania about calling me out of my father's house, it still rings out loud in my head. Yes, God called me out because I was so dependent on my earthly dad that when troubles came my way in a new place, I had nowhere to turn to but to my heavenly dad. A journey I'll be eternally grateful for, a journey of knowing God personally, not just knowing about Him. He had intentionally given me those desert times to walk with Him alone, the way He had done with Moses, Jacob, Joseph, David, and many others in the Bible. God transformed me such that my singing for performance became singing for worship. My social nature gave me a burden for souls rather than to party. And my boldness gave me a desire to pray and proclaim Jesus rather than to stand for human rights. The prophecies made many years ago that I would help women and pray for people were coming true. The worship leader you see today was a shy schoolgirl who couldn't even face an audience on stage, then a breakaway college girl, an ambitious career girl, and a proud, frustrated homemaker, all of which could have destroyed the family life and ministry life I enjoy today. As I look back over the past 20 years, God's hand of protection has been so strong on me to keep me safe through abuse, betrayal, pride, jealousy, and many other unseen dangers. He preserved my marriage, healed our kids, reconciled broken relationships, blessed us with encouraging friends at every stage, fantastic maids and helpers, answered several prayers, including just recently the way he reopened registrations for my son to get into a college of his choice. I've often pictured God swooping down like that watchful eagle and picking me up from the miry pit. A song I love, He picked me from the miry pit and put me on the rock to stay. That's exactly what God did in my life when I didn't even know I was in that miry pit. Through it all, I've gotten to trust God's loving nose more and more as He walks with me through the fire and the flood. He taught me utter, total dependence on Him, disciplining me and humbling my pride, but never once condemning me or humiliating me. In short, I learned from self made disasters that being in His will alone guarantees a purpose filled life. I'm at peace when I know He controls my life. I hardly need to stress. Just believe and ask Him if any problem crops up. If I stress, the thought immediately crosses my mind: did I ask God? His financial provision and peace in our family was so much more than I could have earned in my career. Today, the company Dinu has worked for since our uncertain times in 2004 is spread across over 20 nations globally, using the system he developed from scratch. That's my God, my Lord, and my God. Disciple Thomas's famous words became so real and so personal to me. That's why the key verse from Job. I understand why God's working in Job's life much better. He took away all my talents, but gave me something more by turning them into spiritual gifts. Do I need anything greater than that? Maybe you don't know. I'm nervous before every worship session, before every speaking session till God takes over. Pray for your leaders. I've missed that encouragement greatly in the past, but I get a lot from this group and my women's group in Pennsylvania, which really helped mold me. Leaders are humans too. We struggle and fall often, but it takes immense courage to shoulder responsibilities and lead from the front. So do pat your leaders and pray for them regularly in church, in DRM, in our nation, everywhere. Spend time with God. Delight in His word. That's what I really learned. A valuable lesson in my life. And see Him transform your life at any age and at any stage. None of us is too young, too old, too far gone, or too spiritually mature to be connected or corrected by a loving God. Today, if you tell me you're facing a problem, apart from supporting you in prayer, I'd probably ask you how your spiritual life is. If you tell me you're too busy for prayer, I'd ask you directly how you make time for everything else you want to do. Not to judge you, but simply because I've been there and done it and know the outcomes. God called me to serve Him fully on March 23rd, 2020. And I'm grateful for the women's group in Pennsylvania that helped shape me to use me here today. From being outwardly perfect, but broken with a huge void inside of me that no one could satisfy but Jesus. Today, I'm overall perfect, a perfectly imperfect work in progress. This slide here pretty much sums up my life. That's the teddy bear Jesus wanted from me, to give me something much better. And that's the lesson I learned. Jesus loves me, this I know, but a greater assurance is Jesus knows me, this I love, and something that he has been teaching me. You can't take everyone to Christ, but you can take Christ to everyone. God doesn't force anyone to love him. God never forces his hand on anyone. But I'm so glad he pursued after me. It's when we can't do anything that God does everything. And during this time of preparation, I know he's preparing me for some plans that he has for me, plans to prosper me and never to harm me. And as he prepares me for whatever he has in store for me, this is what I'm going to do. Deep within my heart, I know you won. I know you've overcome. And even in the dark, when I'm undone, I still believe it. I live by faith and not by sight. Sometimes miracles take time. While I wait, I will worship. Lord, I worship your name. While I wait, I will trust you. Lord, I'll trust you all the same. When I fall apart, you are my strength. Help me not forget, seeing every scar. You make me whole. You're my healer. I live by faith and not by sight. Sometimes miracles take time. While I wait, I will worship. Lord, I worship your name. While I wait, I will trust you. Lord, I'll trust you all the same. You're faithful every day. Your promises remain. You're faithful every day. Your promises remain. While I wait, I will worship. Lord, I'll worship your name. While I trust, I will trust you. Lord, I'll trust you all the same. Lord, I'll trust you all the same. Thank you. Thank you for listening in. God bless you all.